1 week before my birthday, my 3 children slid a life agreement across the table, coldly smiling as if I had no choice. They didn't know I still owned a 720-acre ranch, held $5 million in a trust, and had a plan that would erase the smug smiles off their faces. The pen lay in front of me, silver and heavy, pointed like a weapon, the paper beneath. It carried words colder than any blade. My 3 children sat across the table, their eyes glinting like strangers. 1 week before my birthday, they slid the agreement across the table, their lips twisting with polite cruelty. Just sign it, Dad, my eldest said, his voice rehearsed steady. The other 2 smiled, waiting for my hand to move. It was their idea of mercy. Strip me of decision-making, tuck me into a corner, treat me like a relic, too fragile to live free. They thought I'd roll over. They thought blood made me weak, but they had forgotten who raised them. Once, I lived for their laughter. I worked my fingers raw so they'd never know hunger. So college tuition was paid without hesitation. So Christmas mornings burst with gifts. I was their provider, their shield, their constant. But somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing me as a father. They started seeing me as an obstacle. It began in whispers, questions about my health, sideways, glances at the pills on the counter. Then it sharpened. They asked about simplifying my life, about consolidating assets, about the house. And finally, the mask slipped altogether. The agreement in front of me wasn't about love. It was about control, ownership. But what they didn't know was that the deed to the ranch never left my name. $720 acres of prime land hidden behind layered trusts and shill LLCs and tucked away an untouched $5 million. Trust that could buy silence, loyalty, or destruction depending on my will. So I smiled back. I signed nothing. That night I walked the ranch alone. The wind cut sharp through the pines, but the silence cleared my head. If my children wanted war, I would give them something far colder. Justice. I pulled files from the lockbox, deeds, trusts, legal papers I'd kept untouched for years. I made calls to the lawyer who owed me favors, to the banker who still answered when I rang. I wasn't reckless. I was deliberate. If they wanted my life packaged and handed to them, I would package it differently. I rewrote my will layer by layer until it became a puzzle only I could solve. And then I set the trap. The following Sunday, I invited them to dinner. The table was dressed like a feast, the air thick with roasted meat and wine. They came, smiling, smug, certain I would finally bend. I let them eat. I let them laugh. And then I slid a stack of papers across the table, their own weapon turned back at them. Since you're so eager about my affairs, I said, calm as stone. I thought you'd want to know what's been decided. They leaned in. The smiles began to falter. The ranch transferred into a charitable land trust in my name. Untouchable. The $5 million reallocated to fund scholarships, veterans housing, food banks. Every dollar accounted for, every cent out of their reach. The house, already promised to my sister, their aunt who never betrayed me, and them modest stipend, conditional, tied to their respect and conduct, a leash, not a gift. I watched the blood drain from their faces. You can't do this. My middle son whispered, I already have. I answered. The silence that followed was thicker than the wine in their glasses. For the first time in years, they looked at me not as prey, but as a man they underestimated. I saw anger, shame, fear, but beneath it all I saw recognition and acknowledgement of the father they tried to erase. I stood, my voice steady. You came to me with greed. You'll leave with nothing but consequence. Remember that when you smile at me next. They left without dessert, without words, without the smugness they carried in. I sat alone at that table, the flicker of candle, light dancing across the untouched cake, and for the first time in months, I exhaled without bitterness. Justice, I learned, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it signs papers in silence. Sometimes it waits patient for betrayal to reveal its own hand, and when it strikes, it doesn't miss. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need their love. What I needed was peace. And peace came the moment I saw their smiles die. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who'd love it too.